the tax cuts enacted by President Trump during his time as in the White House, those tax cuts are set to expire in 2025, and lawmakers now on both sides of the aisle have already started internal debates on how to respond to it all. And quite frankly, corporate America has emerged as a target that could possibly see itself caught in the crossfire from both parties. The Biden administration and Democrats are on record as hoping to increase corporate taxes. And as these brands, frankly, increasingly bow to the causes of the left, conservatives have very little incentive to bail out, especially the worst of those offenders. So, what's it going to take for woke corporations to wake up? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Paul Fitzpatrick. He's the president of the 1792 Exchange and a former longtime employee of Family Research Council. Paul, welcome back to the program.
Jody, thank you for having me. It's my honor.
Well, it's an honor to have you. All right, let's jump into this. A recent Axios Harris poll showed that consumers view twice as many brands as left-leaning than as right-leaning. Is this an accurate perception? Is this what really is taking place in corporate America?
Well, unfortunately, Jody, you've seen this progression, and it really exploded in 2020 when corporations leaned in on political activism and issues that were very divisive and controversial. And they started canceling customers and debanking and denying service. And we all saw that. Well, that has grown. And you saw brands such as Bud Light and Disney and Target and Nike and some others really embrace agendas that many of their customers rejected. And so it is true. Yes, corporations are rightly seen as being more politicized than they were in recent decades.
Well, we've seen a lot of backlash. I mean, we've all watched this, and Bud Light and Disney. I mean, we can go on and on. There's been a significant backlash, not only on personal level of consumer boycotts, but states even have divested from funds like BlackRock and similar things due to ESG investment policies and so forth. So, what's the big picture status for ESG? What's the big picture status for woke corporations and the pushback that's coming from the right?
Well, as we know, historically, corporations had close relationships with Republicans and the right, kind of working for lower taxes and favorable regulations. And that happened for a long time. Unfortunately, as your listeners know, I mean, coming out of the UN in 2004, they pushed this agenda. And ESG ultimately was born. And what is that? It's the marriage of Wall Street's desire to make money and the left's desire to use corporations to impose policies on the American people that they can't get passed legislatively, right? And so it was really a brilliant plan, and it worked well. Everybody got what they wanted. Corporations, the Wall Street folks are making a lot more money. The activists were getting policies forced down the throats of customers and employees and manipulating capital markets from corporations. A lot of it coming from the big asset managers, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. And they really were kind of running unimpeded. But then really starting in 2021, states started pushing back. You first saw state treasurers push back and saying, we are not going to let you weaponize our state employee pension funds and our taxpayer dollars and our cash against the very economies and values that make our state great. And so you started seeing treasurers divesting billions of dollars from BlackRock. You started then seeing attorneys general pointing out the fact that these asset managers and pushing back on the Biden administration and other companies, that they were violating their fiduciary duty because they were imposing ESG principles on investments that were non-ESG investments. In essence, they're taking non-financial considerations when making financial decisions with other people's money. But they're also were violating antitrust laws, they were alleged to be, because they were agreeing to zero out fossil fuels from their portfolios at the same time that they're telling their customers, the states, the pension funds, and others, that they're going to invest only for the highest returns. And so after that, you saw state legislatures coming in and saying, we are not going to do business. A handful of states did this, and it's growing, We are not going to do business with companies that are boycotting our core industries. And actually, you've seen other states even more pass laws saying we are not going to allow you to manage our state pension funds for anything other than financial returns. And this
Well, it's
tremendous pushback has forced the big asset managers to change their tune. They're not talking about ESG in the same way they were. Many of them are calling it a dirty word. In essence, Larry Fink of BlackRock, who's really the godfather of pushing this, they have been pushed back. They're having to spend billions of dollars to lobby. And so it's been encouraging to see people wake up. And to be clear, we want American corporations to be very profitable, but we want them to focus on producing good products and services, not on
right.
political agendas. And so
Yeah, that's
you're
right.
starting to see this trend change.
Yeah, I think it's encouraging on the one hand to see the pushback that's come, but it's discouraging on the other hand to see how many of these corporations are going left. This used to be, they used to enjoy the tax breaks that the Republicans offered and all that sort of stuff. It's a remarkable shift that's taking place. We've only got about a minute or so left, but what has Congress done to push back against these? I mean, we hear from from people, boycotts and so forth. But what has or is Congress doing to push back, and how do you think this may play out as the tax policy debate gets underway?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is when corporations who burn their bridges, unfortunately, with many strong relationships with companies, they're going to come back and say, we want to have the Trump tax cuts extended. They're going to find that some Republican members that historically would have worked with them very gladly are going to say, wait a minute, you need to lay down your arms on the ideological fights. And so, yes, you've seen Judiciary Committee, Oversight Committee, even Ed and Workforce have hearings. You've seen some legislation on ESG. We would like to see more. We'd like to see Larry Fink brought before and forced to testify, brought before Congress, and some of these, but some of the big banks have been forced to. And so, yes, there's a start, but there is a reticence, I would say, among some Republicans in the House and the Senate to actually
All
hold
right.
corporations to account and really hold their feet to the fire and just have an open, honest debate.
Got to leave it there. Paul Fitzpatrick with 1792 Exchange. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us today.